Holding select and pressing this first button will show and hide the mixer. And holding select and pressing this second button will show and hide the channel rack. And holding select and pressing this third button will show and hide the playlist. This plugin button will show and hide the currently selected plugin. And this auto button will close all windows. So let's open up a few windows here. And once we press this auto button, everything closes. So going back to the top here, we have volume, swing, tempo, and I'll include lock in this group as well because it behaves similarly. So we can hold this button down, this volume button, and turn the knob to control the volume of the currently selected channel. And so I'll open the channel rack so you can see that. We'll look at this volume knob here and hold this button down and turn the knob. And we can see that we can control the volume. And looking at the hint panel, we see that it changes in increments of 5%. This swing button will control the channel swing. So I'll open that up. And if you look at the swing parameter, you'll see that when we hold the swing button down and turn this knob, the swing changes accordingly. And then we have the tempo button here. We hold that down and turn the knob, and we're able to increase and decrease the tempo in increments of 1 beat per minute. So moving down to this lock button, this will control the snap. So we can see at the top here, we have snap currently set to step. If we hold this lock button down and turn the knob, we can change that. So going back to the top here, we also have the sampling button, which allows you to audition samples in the browser. So I have a sample here in the browser, and when I press the sampling button, I'm able to audition it. Now we can also press this knob, and looking at the hint panel, it tells us that we can enhance the pad sensitivity, or if we press it again, it will go back to default pad sensitivity. These three buttons here actually have a secondary function. If you hold each of them down and turn the knob, they all control different things. So holding this first button down and turning the knob will change our octave, which you can see in the hint panel. You can go up or down. And holding this second button and turning this knob will control semitone. So you can see what key you're in. We just moved up to C sharp or D flat. And we can keep going up or back down to C. And then holding this third button and turning the knob will change your chord position. So we'll revisit these three controls later to see where they apply. Now we'll take a look at this transport section down here, starting with the play button that will play. And if you had pattern mode enabled, it would play that pattern. Right now it's song mode, so it's playing the song. We can press play again to pause and play again to resume. And then we can press this stop button to completely stop. We can press this record button to arm recording. You can see that here. Now we can take that off by pressing it again. And then you can see here it says count in on this button as well. So if we hold select and press that button, in the hint panel you can see that count in is enabled, and then we can hold select and press it again to disable count in. Now the shift button is actually reserved for Maschine software, so it doesn't do anything. This restart button will restart playing at the top of the song or pattern. So if we press play, we can press restart and see that it starts over. I'll go ahead and stop that. Now this button here on the end that says follow grid, that's our metronome. So if we look at this symbol here, we can see when we press it, our metronome is enabled and we can hear that. And we can also disable the metronome with that same button. This tap button will allow you to tap your tempo. So I'll demonstrate that. So you can see our tempo is now 88. And this erase button will essentially act like a delete button. So if we open up the piano roll, for example, and put some notes in here, we can press erase and those will get deleted. We can also put some notes in and just select some of them and press erase, and the selected notes will get deleted. Now we'll take a look at this column of buttons here, starting with fixed velocity. We can see that it's off because the light is off, even though it may be a bit difficult to tell. But when it's off, the pads will respond in a velocity sensitive manner. So the harder we hit the pad, the louder it's going to sound generally. When I enable fixed velocity, no matter how hard the pad is hit, it will always be at full velocity. This scene button will show and hide the piano roll. This pattern button will switch between song and pattern mode, which we can see up here. This events button will insert markers into the playlist. So I'll open the playlist and insert a marker right at the beginning. And we'll take a look at this touch strip a little bit more later, but for now I'm going to use it to seek through the playlist so I can add another marker. And I'll go ahead and add one more. And then we'll use this variation button here. We'll hold it down and turn this knob to navigate between the markers we just created. And we can also do that during playback. This duplicate button will essentially copy and paste. So I'll open the piano roll and insert some notes here and press duplicate. And you can see that the notes are duplicated. The select button we've seen already. When we hold it down, it allows us to access secondary functions of each of the other controls. And I'll use that now to open the mixer and demonstrate this solo button, which will solo the currently selected insert, which happens to be master right now. And we can press it again to unsolo. And then we have the mute button, which will mute the currently selected insert. And I can press it again to unmute. Now this mute, it also says choke on this button here, and we can access that by holding select and pressing. And when you do that, it will send a MIDI note off message to every single channel and every single note in every single channel. So I'll do that now. We'll look at the hint panel so you can actually see it happen. So sometimes this is referred to as a panic button. Maybe you have a plugin with some hung MIDI notes that just won't stop playing. Well, in that situation, you can use this. All right, now we get to the fun part. So we're gonna kick this off with the group button. Hit that group button. We got some red buttons. We got some green buttons. This red pad right here is brighter than the rest because we're in group 1. This green pad is brighter than the rest because, as you see in the hint panel, we're in chord mode 1-3. So I'll explain what that means in a little bit. But for now, it's important to know that as you hold this group button down, you're able to select different groups. So when I let go, we see the pads go back to normal. We start off in pad mode. So this is pad mode up here. I don't really have to click it because we're already in pad mode. And it allows us to select between the different instruments that we have available on our channel rack. So we have 3 instruments here. So as I hit these pads, we can actually select the instrument and also preview the sound. All right. So we have 16 pads here, but we can support more than 16 instruments. So that's where this group button comes in. If we want to add, let's say 17 instruments, we hold this group button, go to the second group, and now this would correspond to our 17th instrument all the way up to 32. And we can just keep going and creating or going to different groups as necessary. So let's go back to group 1 and we can select between these. Now this is pad mode. If we hit pad mode again, we end up in what's called Omni preview mode, and we can see all the pads turn yellow. So what is Omni preview mode? It's very similar to pad mode. As I hit these pads, I hear the sounds again, but the difference is I'm not selecting a different instrument. You see this green highlight stays where it's at, whereas in pad mode it moves because I'm changing my instrument. So that's the main difference. Now for Omni preview mode to work, we have to go into options, MIDI settings, and make sure that this Omni preview is on 16, MIDI channel 16. That's what it's hard coded to for now. So we can load up a bunch of different sounds here and essentially create a kit and go into Omni preview mode and just play in that kit. So that's what it's there for. So let's go back to regular pad mode, and let's switch to our second instrument so we can demo the other modes. So let's go over to keyboard mode and see what happens here. So that is a chromatic scale, and we can change scales by turning this knob. So now we're in a major scale, minor, harmonic minor, major pentatonic. All right, and it just keeps going, right? All these different scales you have, these you can also find in Maschine software. So keyboard mode is a response to what scale you're in, and we'll revisit keyboard mode, but we'll move on right now to chord mode, which also responds to the scale you're in. So it's the same knob here that you use to select your scale. So let's go to major, minor, minor, what was that? Minor, harmonic minor, and let's go to major pentatonic. Okay, and right now we're only playing the first and the third note of the corresponding scale. So remember this group button, remember these green pads? Well, we can change the notes that comprise our chords, right? The notes in the scale that comprise our chords by changing these green pads. So if I hit this pad, we can see in the hint panel now we'll be playing the first and fifth note in the scale to make up our chord. Okay, let's go back here and change to 1, 3, 5. And we'll do one more example. We'll go to 1, 3, 5, 7. And so this will give you 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 7, and octave. Now this last pad here, the 16th one, is special. It takes you into a whole entire new, you could say, sub mode of chord mode, which is chord sets. So in chord set mode, you can see these pads, they are all uniform in color. There's no highlighting. It doesn't really make sense to highlight any root notes in this mode because these are all kind of disparate chords in a sense. Musically, they're arranged so that they go together. We'll see what that sounds like. All right, so this is just the first set of chords in the first bank. So let's revisit this group button again, and we can see that we can go to bank 2. And let's hear how that sounds. All right, so we have a bunch of different chords we can choose from, but in each of these banks, we can access up to 16 different chord sets. So let's go back to the first you can say bank here. And remember we heard this already. Oh wait, actually we didn't hear that one. Oops. I selected the wrong group. So the first group here. Right. While we're in this bank, we can change chord sets by holding select and turning this knob. I'll go to 8, a random one. I'm just hitting random pads. Let's go to a different one. I think I actually like this second one here. So you get the idea there. You have a ton of different chord sets to play with and get inspiration from. And not only that, but you can actually add your own custom chord sets. If I go to this last group here, right, it's silent because this is a space for you to fill in your own custom chord sets, right? You're not going to hear anything even if you hold select and shift to chord set 16, it's still blank. Everything in this last group is custom. So to customize, you would actually open up this custom.py, and in between these blue brackets here, you can fill in the notes that correspond to your custom chords. So you see this is custom chord set 1. There's 16 here, 16 brackets or whatever, and they each correspond to 16 pads. So you would go in here and let's say I don't know, I'm just gonna put some random stuff in here, that, and then this, or actually let me do that again. Yeah, that, and then this, and then this. I don't know what I'm building here, but yeah. So I just built some random chord here with E6, C sharp 5, and A sharp 6. I would save that and I would come in here. You know what, let me just actually do it. I'll save it. I'll come in here. I'll go to view, script output. I'll reload my script. I'll go back into chords mode and I'll go to my last group here. And I will also go to chord set mode. Yeah, so I actually had to go to chord set mode first and then go to my last group here. And before, remember, it was blank, but now we have whatever chord that is that I just built. And actually, I don't think it sounds too bad for a random chord, but the rest are blank because I did not fill them in. And all of that would have just been chord set 1. I can fill this one in, and when I go back in here, I would hold select and change to chord set 2. All right, so hopefully that's clear on how you would do that. Just be careful, because if you edit the file incorrectly, then the script won't run. So, you know, it's good to save a backup. So I'm going to undo that because I don't want to distribute this with that random chord in there. So, all right. So now you can see you can add custom chords in there. So you have a whole world of chords at your fingertips. Pretty much any chord you can think of. If it's not already in here, you can just build it yourself, you know. But all the harmonic chords, like the 1-3, 1-3-5, 1-3-5-7, 1-4-5, 1-4-7 octave, all that stuff is already in there. And you can also switch, you know, between the different scales. All right, you can see up here all the different scales we have. And yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that. You can pretty much do anything. Now we'll move on to step. Okay, so now we're in step mode. When I hit these pads, the corresponding step in the step sequencer gets lit up, and it should be pretty self-explanatory what that does. I can erase them with my mouse, and the lights on the unit also go off. And what does the group button do in this pad mode? Well, if I go to second group here, I can reach further in my step sequencer, and then I can go to the third group here and just keep going and adding steps, right? So let's go back to keyboard mode. I'm going to select a different instrument actually. I like this one. I'm going to go to keyboard mode. All right. And let's go to I don't know what scale to choose. Natural, Dorian. All right, well, let me go to my first group here, and I'll just go to a major scale. That's very familiar. All right, so while I'm in keyboard mode here, I can hold this first button here and turn this knob to change my octave. All right. All right. I can hold the second button to change my semitone, and you will see the key that I'm in up here. All right. I can change keys. All right, so you can change to whatever key you want, and you can see what key you're in. Now this third button here is for chord positions or inversions. So just when you thought we've explored all of chords mode, we haven't. We can actually invert chords. So if I go to chords mode, and right now I'm in chord sets, I don't want to be in chord sets, so I'm going to go to group and go back to this first, which is my first and third note in the scale. I can invert those chords by holding this and going to my first chord position. All right, and I can keep inverting up to the third chord position, and in this case, that third chord position just sounds like we've shifted up an octave of a previous chord inversion, which in fact we have because there are only 2 notes in this chord. But you will notice more variations in those chord inversions as we select more complex chords. So let's say I choose, I don't know, I'm going to choose 1, 3, 5, 7. I like that one. All right, and now I can go here, hold this third button here, and turn this knob. All 3 of those times, those were the same exact chords I was playing, but just inverted versions of the chords. All right, see, I'm having too much fun now. Now is a good time to look at the touch strip here. We have different modes in the touch strip. We saw earlier that we could seek through the pattern or song. That's when we're not in any mode, but we can go into pitch mode here, and we'll see what that does. So you get pitch bend, and we'll go to mod mode here, and now we have control over the mod wheel. was having way too much fun. So that's your mod wheel. All right, notes. Now we're in notes mode for this touch strip, and we can actually, let's go to keyboard mode first, and we can play notes. This is going to correspond to whatever scale we're in. It'll honor that. So if I change the scale here, you can hear it sounds different. Right? And we can play the pads at the same time. And let's see, this also works for chords. All right, so we can play notes, we can play chords, and play everything. All right, it's very responsive. All right, so hopefully you can see the potential in that. We also have pad filtering mode. So if I hold select and notes, you'll see that pad filtering is enabled in the hint panel. So if I hold, let's say, one note down or one pad, the touch strip only plays that. I can hold whichever ones I want. And it will play those. If I'm not holding any pads, it will play all. So to get out of that mode, pad filtering, I can hold select and notes and just disable it. And now I can play the pads and the touch strip at the same time again. So the last thing with the touch strip is the LED lights here. It will track the song position. So if I leave, right now I'm in notes mode. If I press notes mode so that I'm in no mode, remember I can seek through my pattern or song. But also if I press play, this LED will keep track of where I am in the pattern or song. So that should be it for the touch strip. I did some TV magic setup behind the scenes already to make some things work, like the mod wheel. I have a manual that you can reference to see how to get everything set up. In particular, this mod mode here, this shows you with some pictures here exactly how to set it up so that your mod wheel just works. And I'll show you real quick. It's in the project settings, remote control. You can see I have these mod wheel wrappers here. So as long as that's there, then my mod wheel will respond. So once you get that set up, it's a good idea just to make a template so you don't have to do it more than once, right? So that's it for touch strip related things. Now you have this kind of random button sitting here in the touch strip section, but it's not really related to the touch strip. So what that does is, we'll press it and find out. It opens up the mixer and it opened it up to the master insert because that's what this instrument is routed to. So if I, for instance, go and select this instrument and let's pull it up here, and let's say I tell it to go to track 3. All right, and let's say I just switch to a random track in this mixer and close it. Well, if I press this button, it's going to open me up to 3 because that's what my instrument is on. All right, now if I want to link this instrument to a brand new channel or a brand new mixer insert, I can, in my mixer, let's see, I can select, I don't know, let's say 10. And I can hold select and press this button, and you can see that Omnisphere here is now linked to 10.